Hi, I'm Megan. Welcome to today's live reading of "Twas the Fight Before Christmas" by Pauline Baird Jones from the anthology Festive Fates, 11 Spirited Holiday Tales, presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Join me. "Twas the Fight Before Christmas." It was a party on an alien planet in a galaxy far, far away. Doc, Delilah, Oliver, Clementine wanted to sigh, but it wasn't possible with the right rigidly polite smile plastered to her face. The smile, directed in the general direction of her happily chattering sister-in-law, who had given her the ugly Christmas sweater she wore now, served a dual purpose. It allowed her brother Robert to pretend Doc was thrilled to be at Emily's Christmas party, and it fooled Emily into thinking Doc was listening to her. Against the soft murmur of voices, Christmas carols played, their nostalgia factor boosted by familiar holiday smells seeping out from the spread of food across the gaily decorated table. There was even a real Christmas tree, adding pine to the array of scents. It twinkled mockingly at her, or so it seemed. You were remembering. The unexpressed sigh felt like a rock in her chest, the kind of pain her nanites couldn't fix. Yes, she answered her nanites. Since they lived inside her, they could tell anyway. Thanks to a brain that was brilliant and now in better control with the help of those nanites, Doc could see, feel, and smell two very distinct memories. The easier memory was the party, a party very unlike this one, where she'd met Hal for the first time. Thinking about him softened that smile some. She felt him watching her from across the room, kind of like he had at that first alien party. He had been interested then, and even now he knew her better. He was still interested. If it were only that memory, she might have enjoyed the party as much as she couldn't enjoy any party. It was the other memory that brought back the tension. Christmas in her family had been a stilted affair at the best of times. The last Christmas had been the worst of times. She considered this. Yes, it was the worst, and worst was a high bar to get over with her history. Her last family Christmas was the day they'd taken Robert away. His mental hounds of hell had overcome him, leaving her behind with hers, leaving her wondering how soon she would follow him to that special hospital. The nanites had tamed both their hounds, had brought Robert not just back to sanity, but they'd brought him back into her life. And they'd brought Robert Emily. He loved her, which was why Doc stood there, letting her chatter on about their visit to Earth to see her brother. Doc blinked. That's right. Robert had a brother-in-law. Being a much nicer person than Doc, he probably enjoyed meeting Emily's brother. It wasn't that she was jealous of the love in her brother's life. He deserved all the happiness he could get after. Well, after. Emily was just so cheerful, so perky, and she wasn't afraid of Doc. That might have been what bothered her the most. Everyone was afraid of Doc. Well, everyone except Hel and Robert, but they weren't so overtly cheerful or perky. Doc had no problem with the whole world being happy. They could even be perky, but just do it over there and not up in her grill. She didn't know how to do this. Being at a party to party wasn't her skill set. Prior to, well, everything that happened since her arrival at the Garridian galaxy, everything she did was predicated on mission requirements. Her interactions with the people around her only mattered as they impacted her mission for good or ill, or more simply on how bad she would have to hurt them to get them out of her way so she could do what needed to be done. Think about this party as a mission, Hernianite suggested. Doc considered the idea. It wasn't a bad idea, but your mission tonight is to make your brother happy. This should be in her skill set, or at least not that hard, but he already looked happy without any help from her. You need to make Emily happy. That is what makes Robert happy. She needed to make Emily happy? She didn't think she could do that. The impossible just takes longer. How lovely to have her own words thrown back at her. And could she do the impossible in one night? Perhaps she needed to settle for not making Emily unhappy. I suppose that will have to do. She almost sighed with relief. Her skill set with peopling had improved since her marriage to Hel, but she was still way better at kicking butt. She did not look at Emily with that thought. This meant she had to look at the other guests. At least everyone was wearing an ugly Christmas sweater too, even General Hallowell. That made her lips twitch, since he wasn't looking at her. It was interesting that he was afraid of her and somehow not, and she was a little afraid of him. He was her superior officer, sort of. She gave an internal shake and continued her study of the other guests at the party. Emily had a great time holiday shopping with during her time on Earth. Hal, who used to wear the official pink as a leader of his people, somehow managed to make his sweater look almost pretty. It was a Gaiety superpower, looking pretty. You look fab, Emily said, breaking into Doc's thoughts. I figured you didn't have a Christmas outfit. I had a Christmas pin I was going to wear, Doc said. It doubled as a microphone. That it doubled as a microphone was not relevant to the moment. Emily chuckled. You're so funny. Doc blinked. She'd been called a lot of things, but funny wasn't on that list. Ralston and Lauren are so excited. Emily looked fondly at Hal's two sons. They weren't afraid of Doc either, she recalled now, but that was probably because she played Mario Kart with them the first time they met. That didn't mean she understood them, and she still didn't know how to talk to them. With them. You talk with them. Doc's unexpressed sigh got bigger inside her chest. You're a good mom, Emily said. Doc jerked. It was out of character, and that bothered her almost as much as being called mom. She wasn't their mom. She didn't try to be their mom. Something her mother-in-law would hate. That was one interesting lady, which begged the question, how had Emily persuaded Hal's mom to wear an ugly sweater with the words, "This is my ugly sweater" on the front? It blows my mind that this is the first time they'll celebrate Christmas, Emily went on. It blew her mind that the aliens hadn't heard of Christmas. Doc pressed her lips together. I wanted to celebrate something gaudy too, Emily said, but they don't seem to have holidays. Well, there was the never-ending war, Doc pointed out, and they'd spent so much time making themselves and their war machines pretty, who had time for holidays? And pink kind of clashes with red and green. Emily appeared to consider this. I've seen it work, but her gaze strayed toward Hal, and the words trailed off. In no reality or timeline would Hal make pink, red, and green work. The thought of it had made Doc's lips twitch, though. It had been hard enough getting him to give up pink, the Gaddy's royal color. There was no way she was going to try to get him to wear red or green. Besides, black suited him so well. He does look hot in black, Emily said. Maybe that's how he made his ugly sweater look good, Doc mused. His black pants were definitely hot. He was still slim-hipped, with powerful shoulders filling out the sweater, with the lower body of an elf stitched on it. His head was the elf's head, his blonde hair and pretty features distinctively not elfish, though he could look very wicked on occasion. Doc's sweater was the female version of the elf sweater. It could have been worse. She glanced around. It could have been so much worse. Robert's sweater looked like a wrapped present coming out of his chest, and Colonel Carey's had a gingerbread man with the words "bite me" and a thought bubble. Emily's sweater had a reindeer exploding out of her chest. Olivia's sweater was sparse by comparison. It was splattered with snowflakes and ornaments. The prize for worst went to Briggs, though. His sweater showed Santa on the toilet. He carried it off because he was Briggs. And he had Madison. Hers had a Santa stuck upside down in the chimney. Doc was glad it was a small gathering. It could have been worse, with even more sweaters. I didn't catch your mother-in-law's name, Emily said, her voice lowered suddenly. It's really long, Doc said, and hard to pronounce. She gave Emily an honestly wry look. I just call her ma'am when I have to call her something. At least Emily didn't have to worry about that. Doc and Robert's parents were gone. They'd have been challenging in-laws, though. They'd been challenging parents. Of course, they'd been challenging children. I don't think she or the general have said a word in the last 15 minutes, Emily said, a small frown pulling her brows together. Doc was impressed Emily had been able to notice this while chattering, almost without pause. Emily didn't care who was saying what to whom. It was body language that mattered, or more precisely, threatening body language. There shouldn't be any here, but the habit was too deeply ingrained for her to stop looking for it. And look at how the last party had gone. She totally didn't want a bomb to go off here, but this party could use some livening up. I think it's time for some karaoke, Emily said. It's a great way for the kids to learn Christmas carols. Doc couldn't even blink. Which of Emily's guests would hate that the most? There were plenty of contenders. Then I'd start with them, Doc said. Maybe there'd be a bomb before it was her turn.